Good evening. They say that every night when the 6 o'clock news comes on, and then they tell you why it isn't good evening. But tonight, good news, we're going to have a great show. We're going to have a great time. We got two of my very favorite people here. I'd like to thank the El Dorado Hotel and Casino for sponsoring us tonight. We sure appreciate that. We'd also like to thank, we didn't get to mention it in the program, but a longtime patron of the Western Folklife Center, George Gund, passed away recently, and we would just like to thank him. Without his help, this thing never would have gotten off the ground. So, thanks. And I'd like to thank all of you guys for coming, because without you, we couldn't have this big reunion that we get to have every year. Nostalgia isn't what it used to be, but I met both of these guys 25 years ago here, and they've become some of my closest friends. And Joel Nelson is without a doubt my favorite contemporary cowboy poet. And Don Edwards, without a doubt, has brought more cool cowboy songs to more people than anybody going. So I think we're really lucky to have them. Neither one of these guys really need any more introduction than that from me, so we'll get them out here. Thank you guys for coming.
Out there, he's a-ranging alone, solitary rider from out of the past, just riding and singing all by himself. Of the old singing cowboys, he may be the last, with a war bag of songs and a wore-out guitar. Chases the sun down, he sings to the stars. Listen to him singing his lonesome refrain, this rambling minstrel of the range. A lone drifting rider just traveling on. He's the last of his kind, with no kith nor kin. The rhythm of his song is the gait of his horse, and he tunes his guitar to the wind. And he'd rather be singing round some campfire tonight, and far from the din and the cold city lights. And he don't care nothing about fortune and fame, this rambling minstrel of the range. Now the range is a-changing into neon and noise. Folks have lost touch with the land, though they may sing along to some old-time song. Mostly they don't understand that sad, lonesome feeling you get deep inside. For the last singing cowboy with nowhere to ride, soon only the night wind will sing the refrain of this vanishing minstrel of the range. Well, good evening, Joe.
Hemingway. And I wrote that little piece a while back and lost it and found it again this morning. And it's just a little thing I wrote to pay tribute to my friends like Don and Gail Steiger and Randy Rieman and a few others here who have had the courage and the tenacity to pursue the dream that they should be following and not just struggle through life wishing that they could.
I was singing this is an old Texas version of this song, and it's an ancient old song that's been around a long time, and you probably heard people, Woody Guthrie and Jack Elliott have done it, I imagine, a time or two. But this is pretty unique to Texas because it's like none of the other versions at all. And it goes like this here about an unscrupulous cowman. He was known as the trail boss from hell. And he was a bad customer, I'll tell you that. He didn't pay anybody when I think they finally got even with him over in Boggy Creek somewhere over there in New Mexico territory. But anyway, he hired on a bunch of people and somehow or another never seemed to pay him, you know. Well, Diamond Joe was a rich old jay, had lots of cowboys in his pay, and he rode the range with his cowboy band, and many a maverick, they got his brand. Well, I hired on, I offered Joe my hand. I got a string of horses, so old they could hardly stand. I like to die from hunger, he mistreated us so. Never earned a dollar in the pay of Diamond Joe. Roll on, boys, roll, don't you roll so slow. Ki-yi-bi-yi, yippee-ki-yi-yo. Well, he'd have a story wherever he'd go. Such a lion rounder, I mean to let you know. Well, I tried to quit him, but he did argue so. Still punching cattle for Diamond Joe. Roll on, boys, roll, don't you roll so slow. Ki-yi-bi-yi, yippee-ki-yi-yo. Well, if I was rich like Diamond Joe, I'd work today, I'd work no more, 'cause the work's so hard and the pay's so slow. Oh, I don't care if I work or no. Roll on, boys, roll, don't you roll so slow. Ki-yi-bi-yi, yippee-ki-yi-yo. Well, just a cowboy, ain't got no home, ain't got no folks, I'm bound to roam. Give my blankets to my buddies when I go, and just give the fleas to Diamond Joe. Roll on, boys, roll, don't you roll so slow. Ki-yi-bi-yi, yippee-ki-yi-yo. Roll on, boys, roll, don't you roll so slow. Roll on, boys, roll, don't you roll so slow. Ki-yi-bi-yi, yippee-ki-yi-yo. Well, a Diamond Joe.
I have ridden the boundary wires with you, I have sweated in yard and shed. I have lighted the red campfires with you in the dust of 1,000 head. Through the west and the wanton ways of her, you were always my comrades true. And from out of the nights and days of her I have woven these songs for you. My song is of the horseman who woke the world's unrest to slake a king's ambition or serve a maid's behest, who bore aloft the love gauge and reaped the rich reward, who swayed the purple banner and swung the golden sword. My song is of the horseman, steel wrist and iron thigh, in whatsoever saddle beneath whatever sky, who breaks the road for empire, who leads the hope forlorn, who rides with whip and knee pad, who rides with rope and horn. My song is of the horseman who backs the outpost law, who holds with helm and carbine the frontier thieves in awe. My song is of the trooper who stands across the street in hours of our forgetfulness to stay the wild mob's feet. My song is of the horseman who rides unblanched the vale, who dares the deepest river and risks the stoutest rail, who neath the roaring racing stand rides down to fence or fall, who bends above the boar spear or drives the dancing ball. My song is of the horsemen, the centaurs of all time, who stole for us the freedom of the colts of every clime, who wore the spurs of mastery and held the reins of pride and left the world a heritage of sons to rule and ride. Up, swear by bit and saddle cloth, by crupper, cinch, and horn, the spurs our grandsires buckled by our sons' sons shall be worn. Let oil nor steam nor wings of dream deprive us of our own, the wide world for our kingdom and the saddle for our throne. Written by Will Ogilvy about 120 years ago.
Wow.
Two horses were trotting, they pranced and they ran. Each one was commanded by a cavalryman. Two horses stood grazing where their dead riders lay. A Union mare, a Confederate gray. They nuzzled each other and they teased and had fun. They bathed in the warm rays of that old southern sun. No more senseless orders, spirit gray. Two horses were trotting, they pranced and they ran. Each one was commanded by a cavalryman. Two horses stood grazing where their dead riders lay. The Union mare, a Confederate gray. A Union mare, a Confederate gray.
Wow, what a song. I hadn't ever heard Don do that song until tonight. He hit just a little piece of it backstage a while ago after Randy Rieman asked him if he did any songs from the Civil War period, and Don cranked up a couple. That was one of them. I'd never heard it before from Don, but it just kind of emphasizes to me what the horse has endured for the sake of man. Without question. I wrote a tribute to the horse a few years ago. Actually, it was in the year of the horse, 2002. That'll come up again in 2014, won't it? Every 12 years, the year of the horse. But I wrote this little tribute to him. He's a magnificent animal. Evolved from a little terrier-sized critter with toes on all 4 feet, and now the middle digits become the horse's hoof, and the digits to either side have become the splint bones in the horse's leg, and he has carried man through wars for centuries, and this is for him. I have run on middle fingernail through Eolithic morning. I have thundered down the coach road with the revolution's warning. I have carried countless errant knights who never found the Grail. I have strained before the caissons. I have moved the nation's mail. I've made knights of lowly tribesmen and kings from ranks of peons. I have given pride and arrogance to riding men for eons. I have grazed among the lodges and the teepees and the yurts. I have felt the sting of driving whips, lashes, spurs, quirts. I am roguish, I am flighty, I am inbred, I am lowly, I'm a nightmare, I'm wild, I am the horse. I am gallant and exalted. I am stately, I am noble, I'm impressive, I am grand, I am the horse. I have suffered gross indignities from the users and the winners, and I have felt the hand of kindness from the losers and the sinners. I have given for the cruel hand and given for the kind, heaved a sigh at Appomattox when surrender had been signed. I can be as tough as hardened steel, as fragile as a flower. I know not my endurance, and I know not my own power. I have died with heart exploded neath the cheering in the stands, calmly stood beneath the hanging noose of vigilante bands. I have traveled under conqueror and underneath the beaten, yet I've never chosen sides. I am the horse. The world is but a player's stage. My roles have numbered many, under blue or under gray. I am the horse. So I'll run on middle fingernail until the curtain closes, and I will win your triple crowns, and I will wear your roses. Toward you who took my freedom, I've no malice or remorse. I'll endure. This is my year. I am the horse.
Well, long about around up time in Texas, way out west, I lost a pal and a friend, boys, and I laid him down to rest. I wept and moaned over his grave. To me, boys, it was sad. I know down beneath the mound is the best pal I ever had. Now my best pal was my good cow horse, and now he's gone to rest. laid him down beneath that mountain in Texas, way out west, where the cactus blooms over his grave and the coyotes cry. I know he sleeps in perfect peace beneath that Texas sky. Dear old pal, it breaks my heart to leave you here alone. So I'll go back and ride the range on that Texas roan. But my love for you, old pal, it will linger on. I will always think of you, although you're dead and gone. Long about a roundup time in Texas, way out west, I lost a pal and a friend, boys, and I laid him down to rest. Wept and moaned over his grave. To me, boys, it was sad, 'cause I know down beneath that mound is the best pal I ever had. Yodelay-ho, lay-ho, dee-dee-dee. Yes. Love those horse songs. Don't you?
My father, he was a mountaineer. His fist was a knotty hammer. He was quick on his feet as a running deer, and he spoke with a Yankee stammer. My mother, she was merry and brave, and so she came to her labor with a tall green fir for her Dr. Grave and a stream for her comforting neighbor. Some are wrapped in linen fine, and some like a godling scion. But I was cradled on twigs of pine, and skin-nosed to unravel each forest sign. I carried my pack as far as a scout could travel, till I lost my boyhood, found my wife, a girl like a Salem clipper, a woman straight as a hunting knife with eyes as bright as the dipper. We cleared our camps where buffalo feed, unheard of streams were our flagons, and we sowed our sons like apple seed on the trail of the western wagons. They were right tight boys, never sulky or slow, of a fruitful, goodly muster. The eldest died at the Alamo. The youngest fell with Custer. The letter that told it burned my hand, yet I smiled and said, so be it. But I could not live when they fenced the land, for it broke my heart to see it. So I saddled a red unbroken colt and rode him into the day there. He threw me down like a thunderbolt and rolled over me as I lay there. A hunter's whistle hummed in my ear as city men tried to move me, and I died in my boots like a pioneer, the whole wide sky above me. Now I lie in the heart of the fat black soil like the seed of a prairie thistle. It has washed my bones with honey and oil and picked them clean as a whistle, and my youth returns like rains of spring, and my sons like wild geese flying. And I lie and hear the meadowlark sing and have much content in my dying. Go play with the towns you have built of blocks, those towns where you would have bound me. I sleep in my earth like a tired old fox, and my buffalo have found me. Stephen Vincent Benet. Hey, Don and I got an idea. We got a friend backstage here. Actually, two of them.
I didn't know we had 2 friends.
Everybody needs at least two friends, but we're going to ask our good friend Randy Rieman just to walk out here and join us and do
Randy.
whatever he so pleases.
Don just said, "Do you want to play my guitar?" And discretion is...
There's been people here for 25 years that have never heard you play, and I swear you
And
do.
there's a good reason for that. As a matter of fact. Don and I used to play together quite a bit, as a matter of fact. And Don continued to improve and progress, and I went the other direction with the guitar playing. It's a privilege to share the stage with these guys, and I'm honored that they would ask me to have this little spot here. I've been enjoying them so much. The best part of Elko is getting to hear my friends do what they do best. The cowboy culture wouldn't be if it weren't for the horse. There wouldn't be any cowboy music. There wouldn't be any cowboy poetry if it wasn't for the horse, because the horse is the centerpiece of the cowboy culture. And this is a horse poem. It's written by Henry Herbert Nibbs, called "Where the Ponies Come to Drink." Up in northern Arizona, there's a ranger's trail that passes through a mesa like a fairy lake with pines upon its brink. And across that trail a stream runs, all but hidden in the grasses, till it finds an emerald hollow where the ponies come to drink. Out they fling across the mesa's wind-blown manes, and forelocks dancing, blacks and sorrels, bays and pintos, wild as eagles, eyes agleam. From their hooves the silver flashes, burning beads and arrows glancing through the bunch grass and the grandma as they cross the little stream. Down they swing as if pretending in their orderly disorder that they've stopped to hold a powwow, just a rally for a charge that will take them close to sunset 20 miles across the border. And the leader sniffs and drinks with 4 feet planted on the marge. One by one, each head is lowered till some yearling nips another, and the playful interruption starts an eddy through the bland, plunging, wheeling, snorting, squealing, round they circle in the smother of the muddy spray, nor pause until they find the firmer land. Now my old cow horse, he runs with them. Turned him loose for good last season. 18 years hard work his record, and he's earned his little rest, and he's taken it by playing, acting proud, and with good reason. Though he's starched a little forward, he can fan it with the best. Once I called him, almost caught him till he heard my spur rowels jingle. And he eyed me some reproachful, as if making up his mind. He seemed to say, "Well, if I have to, but you know I'm living single." Well, I laughed, and in a while he was pretty hard to find. Some folks wouldn't understand it, writing lines about a pony. Was a cow horse, just a cow horse, nothing more, most people think. But for 18 years, your partner, wise and faithful, such a crony seems worth watching for a spell, down where the ponies come to drink.
That's good.
Randy Rieman. Thank you, Randy.
Through rocky arroyos so dark and so deep, down the sides of mountains so slippery and steep, your sure-footed good judgment wherever you go, whenever you're called on, my little Chapo. Whether single or double in lead of a team, over highways and byways or crossing a stream, you're always in fix, willing to go whenever you're called on, my little Chapo. Oh, Chapo, my pony, Chapo, my pride, Chapo, mi amigo, Chapo, I'll ride from Mexico's border, across Texas, Llano, to the Salt Pecos River, I'll ride you, Chapo. One night on the Llano, a hailstorm began. Cattle stampeded, the horses all ran. The lightning it glittered, the cyclone did blow. You faced the...
This poem Randy did, and the song Don just did, reminded me of a little story, and I just want to share it with you. I've cowboyed most of my life, made my living with horses and cattle, and it's a different era now than it was in the trail drive days. I've only had to ride night herd 2 or 3 times in my life, 3 or 4, I guess, as far as staying with cattle all night long. And one of those times was a couple of years ago, and I was picking up some remnant cattle out of some country that we had moved them to after some severe grass fires destroyed a lot of our country, and I was gathering the last of them, and I had ordered a truck for the next day to come and pick them up, and I had to have them in the pen for that truck the next morning, and I got caught in the dark getting them to the shipping trap, and I mean, it was pitch black. There was just no light whatsoever, and it was brushy country, and I got them to a water trough, and I held them up there because I knew I'd lose them in the brush if I kept trying to move them in the dark. And I held those cattle for hours and hours until early morning the moon came up, and I was riding a sorrel horse that I called Stony. I'd had him ever since he was foaled, owned his mother and his dad, and I'd started him, and he'd done a lot of work for me over the years, and I was sitting holding those cattle waiting for the moon to come up, and he'd throw his ears up ever so often and look over through the brush, and I'd know that he must realize something was trying to slip out of the herd, and so I'd just squeeze him a little and let him have his head, and he'd trot over there and get out around that cow or yearling that was leaving, and we'd put them back in, and this went on for hours and hours, and finally, in early morning, the moon came up and gave me a little light to see, and I was able to trail those cattle on up to the shipping trap gate and get them in, and still couldn't count them. But the next morning, I got a count on them after daylight and hadn't lost any. But had it not been for Stony, it would have been a different ball game entirely. And I thought to myself during that night, I thought, yo, I almost sold this horse 2 or 3 times, but now there's no price that'll buy him. And so that's my story.
That's a good story, Joe. I like that. While I was out riding the graveyard shift midnight till dawn, the moon was bright as a reading light for a letter from an old friend back home. Asked me, why do you ride for your money? Tell me, why do you rope for short pay? You ain't getting nowhere, you're losing your share. And you must have gone crazy out there. Well, last night I run on to Jenny. She's married, she has a good life, but you sure miss the track when you never come back. She's a perfect professional's wife. And ask me, why do you ride for your money? Tell me, why do you rope for short pay? You ain't getting nowhere, and you're losing your share. You must have gone crazy out there. Then they never seen the northern lights, no, they never seen a hawk on the wing. Never seen the spring hit the great divide, and they never heard old Camp Cookie sing. I read up the last of my letter, and I tore off the stamp for Black Jim. And Billy rode up to relieve me. He just looked at my letter and he grinned. Oh, why do we ride for our money? Tell me, why do we rope the short pay? Ain't getting nowhere, and we're losing our share. We all must be crazy out there. Yet they never seen the northern lights, and they never seen a hawk on the wing. Never seen the spring hit the great divide. No, they never heard old Camp Cookie sing. Ole, 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 ole. Mike Burton.
It's all very well to write reviews and carry umbrellas and keep dry shoes and say what everyone's saying here and wear what everyone else must wear, but tonight I'm sick of the whole affair. I want free life. I want fresh air. And I sigh for the canter after the cattle, the crack of the whips like shots in battle, the melee of hooves and horns and heads that wars and wrangles and scatters and spreads. Green beneath, blue above, and dash and danger and life and love and Alaska. Alaska used to ride on a mouse gray Mustang close to my side in blue serape and bright-belled spur. I laughed with joy as I looked at her. Little knew she of books or creeds, and Ave Maria sufficed her needs. Little she cared save to be at my side, to ride with me and ever to ride from San Saba's shore to Lavaca's tide. She was as bold as the billows that beat, she was as wild as the breezes that blow. From her little head to her little feet, she was swayed in her suppleness to and fro by each gust of passion. a sapling pine that grows on the edge of a Kansas bluff and wars with wind when weather. She was alive in every limb with feeling to the fingertips, and when the sun is like a fire and sky one shimmering soft sapphire, one does not drink in little sips. So why did I leave the fresh and free that suited her and suited me? Listen a while and you will see. But one thing to be sure, on earth and in air, God and God's laws are everywhere. And Nemesis comes with a foot as fleet on the Texas Trail as on Regent Street. The air was heavy, the night was hot. I sat by her side and forgot the herd that were taking their rest, forgot that the air was close oppressed, that the Texas norther comes sudden and soon in the dead of night or blaze of noon, and once let a herd at its breath take fright, nothing on earth can stop their flight. And woe to the rider and woe to the steed that falls in front of that mad stampede. Was that thunder? No. By the Lord, I sprang to my saddle without a word, one foot on mine and she swung behind, away on a hot chase down the wind, and never was fox hunt half so hard, and never was steed so little spared, for we rode for our lives. You shall hear how we fared in Texas, down by the Rio Grande. The Mustang flew and we urged him on. There was one chance left, and you have but one. Halt, jump to the ground, shoot your horse, crouch under his carcass and take your chance. And if the steers in their frantic course don't batter you both to pieces at once, you may thank your star. If not, goodbye to the quickening kiss and the long-drawn sigh and the open air and the open sky in Texas, down by the Rio Grande. The cattle gained on us, and just as I felt for my old six-shooter behind in my belt, down came the Mustang and down came we, clinging together. And what was the rest? A body that spread itself on my breast, two arms that shielded my dizzy head, two lips that hard on my lips were pressed. Then came thunder in our ears as over us surged the sea of steers, blows that beat blood into my eyes, and when at last I could arise, Alaska was dead. I gouged out a grave a few feet deep, and there in the earth's arms I laid her to sleep, and there she is lying, and no one knows. The summer shines, the winter snows, and the flowers for many a day have spread a pall of petals over her head. The little gray hawk hangs aloft in the air, and sly coyote trots here and there. The black snake glides and glitters and slides into the rift of a cottonwood tree, and the buzzard sails on and comes and is gone, stately and still, like a ship at sea. And I wonder why I do not care for things that are, like things that were. Does half my heart lie buried there in Texas, down by the Rio Grande? Frank Dupre.
South of the border, down Mexico way. That's where I fell in love when the stars above came out to play. And now as I wander, my thoughts ever stray south of the border, down Mexico way. She was a picture in old Spanish lace. There for a tender while I kissed the smile upon her face, 'cause it was fiesta and we were so gay south of the border, down Mexico way. Then she sighed as she whispered mañana, never dreaming that we were parting. And I lied as I whispered mañana, our tomorrow never came. South of the border, I rode back one day. There in a veil of white by candlelight, she knelt to pray. The mission bells told me I mustn't stay south of the border, down Mexico way. South of the border, on Mexico way. That's where I fell in love when stars above came out to play. Now as I wander, my thoughts ever stray south of the border, down Mexico way. Ay, 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 ay. On the border. You know what?
What's that, Don?
We got another fellow up here, and just because he's, you know, he's hosting our show tonight, you know, why let this talent go to waste when you can get him for nothing? You know?
You're talking about Gail Steiger, right?
Yeah, man.
Let's get
what
Gail
about
out
him for
here.
Gail? Come on, Gail.
Well, thank you. Well, I was just hosting the show because I could get in for free.
We figured that.
Good thing.
We'll make you do something.
Well, thanks. I'm just like Randy. It's a real honor to get to share this stage with you guys, and I appreciate you having me. Is eating sugar out of my palm. The one whose jaws move back and forth instead of up and down. Now she's gazing around through enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down in the grass, how to kneel down into the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? For doesn't everything die at last, and too soon? tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
All right. Gail Steiger, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Gail. Mary Oliver's an incredible voice in our country. If you haven't read her book of poetry, American Primitive, well, you should do so. And how many of you were here for the keynote this morning? I was so looking forward to hearing James Galvin in person. I read his book, The Meadow, about 15 years ago, and it spoke to me, and I've been a fan of his ever since. I've got a couple of his other books, but seeing him this morning up here on Skype, even though he couldn't be here, it was just so incredible to see the expression in his eyes while he was reading and talking, and seeing the pain that was in his eyes. It was so intense, and I just treasure experiences like this at Elko, and our friends doing the poetry that just affects them so that they have to do it. They can't not do it.
It's so true. Never tell how something's gonna, what way it takes, you know, what turn it takes, just like life itself, you know. And think about it. Soft wind sways the whispering grass as the sun sinks low o'er the western pass. A coyote mingles his lonesome howl with the sad, sweet notes of a lone hoot owl. A hawk soars lazily up on high. He's just a speck of black in a crimson sky. And you would this place so sweet, so grand, it might remain untarnished by human hand. But even this place will see the day when it will fall to easy prey of lust and greed, and down the rivers will flow the spoils, all helpless victims of human toils. The work of eons will fall away to the reaper's stroke in just a single day. Though future ages they may never mend the scars of greed until the end of end. Warm are the winds on the desert, a whirlwind is dancing around. I stop to survey all the beauty that's here when a shadow moves out across the ground. It's an eagle that circles above me and screams to his friends on the hill, stay close together, move not a feather. Man walks among us, be still, be still. Man walks among us, be still. Everything hides, but I see them. I spotted an old mother quail, and I look close and see God looking at me through the eyes of a young cottontail. I see a coyote sneaking as he crawls through the brush on the hill, and the eagle screams down, stay close to the ground. Man walks among us, be still, be still. Man walks among us, be still. 20 feet high in the side of a cactus, I see a hole where the butcher bird stays. And if mortals could choose, and if heaven would ask us, here's where I'd want to spend all of my days. Soon will be gone all the desert. Cities will cover each hill, and today will just be a fond memory. Man walks among us, be still, be still. Man walks among us, be still. Man walks among us, be still. Written by the great Marty Robbins. That poem was sort of an abbreviation of a poem that was actually written called Meditation by Curly Fletcher. Beautiful. Yeah, it's a wonderful poem in its entirety. And I think the last guy I heard actually do that poem was our friend, who did that? Who did, whether it was here or not, was, gosh, it was so long ago, many years ago. And I was trying to think of who would sing.
We were the native strangers there among those things of prairie growing. This knowing gave us more the care to let the grass keep at its growing and let the streams keep at their flowing. We knew this land could not be ours, that no one has the awful powers to claim the vast and common nesting, to own the life that gave him birth, much less to rape his mother earth, then ask her for a mother's blessing, and ever live in peace with her, or dying, come to rest with her. We would ride and we would listen and hear the message on the wind. The grass in morning dew would glisten until the sun would dry and blend the grass to ground and air to skying. We'd know by bird or insect flying, or by their mood or by their song, if time and moon were right or wrong for fitting works and rounds to weather. The critter coats and leaves of trees might flash some signal with a breeze, or wind or sun on flower or feather. We knew our way from dawn to dawn and far beyond, far beyond. It was the old ones with me, riding out through the fog fall of the dawn, and they would press me to deciding if we were right or we were wrong. For time came, we were punching cattle from men who knew not spur nor saddle, who came with locusts in their purse to scatter loose upon the earth. The savage had not found this prairie till those who hired us came this way to make the grasses pay and pay for some raw greed no wise or wary regard for grass could satisfy. The old ones wept. So did I. Do you remember We'd come jogging to town with jingle in our jeans, and in the wild night we'd be bogging up to our hats in last month's dreams. It seemed the night could barely hold us with all those spirits to embolden us. With horses waiting on 3 legs, we'd drain the night down to the dregs, and just before beyond redemption, we'd gather back to what we were. We'd leave the money left us there and head our horses for the wagon. But in the ruckus, in the whirl, we were the wolves of all the world. The grass was growing scarce for grazing, would soon turn sod or soon turn bare, and money men set to replacing the good and true in spirit there. We could not say, there was no knowing how ill the future winds were blowing. Some cowboys even shunned the ways of cowboys in the trail herd days, but where's the gift not turned for plunder? Forgot that we are what we do and not the stuff we lay claim to. I dream the spell that we were under. I throw in with a cowboy band and go out horseback through the land. So, mornings now I'll go out riding through pastures of my solemn plain, and leather creaking in the quieting will sound with trot and trot again. I'll live in time with horse hoof falling. I'll listen well and hear the calling the earth my mother bids to me, though I will still ride wild and free. And as I fly out on the morning, before the bird, before the dawn, I'll be this poem. I'll be this song. My heart will beat the world a warning. Those horsemen will ride all with me, and we'll be good, and we'll be free. Buck Ramsey.
That is amazing, isn't it? Wow. Good night, everybody. That's hard, boy. I tell you what, that is very strong. Yeah, Buck was one of our great ones, wasn't he? I always remember, you know, Buck Ramsey was one of the last great poets, great cowboy singers of our time, you know. And you think of all these great things that sometimes we let slip by, you know. And it's just great to be here sitting with you. Thank you for doing this together. Yeah, this is great, man. I tell you what, I've known this guy, well, since the gathering began, you know, I mean, both of us going about 26 out of 28 years or 29 years. And I've always had a love and respect for my friends that are men of the saddle, cowmen, cowboys, always from all my life. I'd known all these. You know, of course, I knew the real ones from the movie ones, because the guys in the movies always rode the same horse all the time. So I got it kind of figured out, you know. So I knew what I was doing. But anyway, no, it's really great. But I tell you what, of all the years I've known Joel, I never knew him as a songwriter. I said, "You mean he had a song he wrote?" I said, "A poem? No, a song." And he had a little tune with it, but I just took a liberty, a little license to just tweak it just a little bit, the tune of it, you know what I mean? Because, you know.
It needed it, Don. Yeah,
no, not really. It didn't. It would have been great the way it was. But anyway, I sing the song all the time now. And it was written by our dear friend Joel Nelson right here. And it's a song. It ain't a poem I put to music. It's a song in its entirety. You rode the good night and loving trail, went up Chisholm too. You drove 3,000 up to Kansas City. You wintered with Teddy Blue. Here's looking at you. Here's looking at you. You rode with Ranger Goodnight. You helped him tame the land. You learned the unknown estacado just like it was the back of your hand when you rode for the brand. You rode for the brand. You went 3 times to Sedalia with a cook and a 6-man crew. You came damn near losing the hurt in your hair to a passel of renegade soup, but you saw it through. Yes, you saw it through. You courted the dance hall beauties until they picked your pockets clean. You let it happen once, you let it happen twice, up in Dodge and Abilene, and every place in between, and every place in between. From a heat-waving pile of pinto and to the frostbite on Raton Pass, you loose-herded cattle through the southwestern drought in the quest for water. And now a half-dozen generations, they have mourned your passing on. But you were just starting what still ain't over, and your spirit saddles up in the dawn, for you are not gone. No, you are not gone. For we see you in the steel dust and the spark flying off of the shoe. And maybe we're here living what you never dreamed of, but you lived what we never knew. Here's looking at you. Here's looking at you. Here's looking at you. Here's looking at you. Cowboy. Joel.
Thank you, Don.
Thanks for a great song, man.
All of us who write are always looking for a way that we would like to say something that we've never heard said just that way before. And I've written a number of pieces simply about the process of writing. One of the hardest things about writing is trying to make thoughts or words come when they're not ready. You can struggle and struggle and fight it, and it just doesn't happen. And then all of a sudden the words are ready to come and you can't stop them. You just get something to write with and put them down. They're all ready. They know what they need to say, and that's what this piece is about. Words that whisper through the grass, through pinon pine and mountain pass, then edge their way into my mind in hopes that I might somehow find some way to sort them into verse, have cast on me a blessed curse. Words that whisper through the grass, through aspen grove and deep crevasse, come howling in on northern cold and plead to have their story told. You must, they say to me, assume responsibility. They come by ones or twos or threes, and I cannot ignore their pleas. And with compliance, some begin to flow from out my shaking pen. Like harnessed teams in perfect time, they work in meter and in rhyme. But words that whisper sometimes shout they must be loose and leave no doubt they'd rather tell their story free of polished farm and cemetery. And I relent the slave alas to words that whisper through the grass.
All right. Was a cowboy I knew in South Texas, and his face was burnt deep by the sun. He's part history, part sage, part Mexican. He was there when Pancho Villa was young, and he'd tell you a tale of the old days when the country was wild all around. Sit out under the stars of the Milky Way, and he'd listen while the coyotes howl. And they'd go, ooh, 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 now the Longhorns have gone, and the Drovers have gone, and the Comanche is gone, and the Outlaws have gone, and Geronimo's gone, and Sam Bass is gone, and the Red Wolf is gone, and the Buffalo's gone. Well, he cursed all the roads, the oil men, even cursed the automobile. Said this ain't no place for an hombre like I am in this new world of asphalt and steel. Then he'd look off someplace in the distance at something only he could see. All that's left now of the old days are them damned old coyotes and me. And they'd go, ooh, 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 now the Longhorns have gone, and the Drovers have gone, and the Comanche is gone, and the Outlaws have gone, and Geronimo's gone, and Summit is gone, and the Red Wolf is gone, and the Buffalo's gone. Then one morning they searched his adobe. He disappeared without even a word. And that night as the moon crossed the mountain, one more coyote was heard, and he'd go,